High Judge Kethrix's crystalline appendages clicked against the quantum display as he scrolled through Earth's assessment file. The familiar motion echoed through the Tribunal's assessment chamber, a vast hexagonal room whose walls shifted between translucent and opaque as data streams flowed through their crystalline matrix. Around him, fellow members of the Special Assessment Division floated in their gravity-nullifying pods, their attention fixed on the holographic representation of Earth rotating in the chamber center. "Quite remarkable," Kethrix announced, his voice modulator adjusting to the formal frequencies required for tribunal proceedings. "They've managed to stabilize their atmospheric carbon levels without even achieving basic planetary evacuation capabilities." A ripple of amusement passed through the chamber, manifesting as subtle pulses of bioluminescence among the assembled judges. Junior Analyst Vera, newly appointed to the division, drifted closer to the hologram. Her sensor stalks wavered as she processed the data streams. "They've achieved this primarily through cooperation between their nation-states," she noted, her tone carrying an undercurrent of puzzlement. "The last 50 Earth years show a marked decrease in open military conflicts. Precisely why they're perfect for protectorate status," Kethrix declared, his primary eyes narrowing while his secondary set monitored the reactions of his colleagues. "A species that has chosen to demilitarize so thoroughly clearly lacks the fundamental aggression required for galactic citizenship." A hologram shifted, displaying a montage of human achievements. Solar farms sprawled across former battlefields. Reforestation drones planted millions of trees where tanks once rolled. International space stations orbited peacefully, their crews representing dozens of nations working in harmony. "Their physical capabilities are equally unremarkable," contributed Assessment Officer Zixtel, pulling up comparative biometric data. "No natural armor, minimal regenerative capabilities, susceptible to temperature variations of merely 50 degrees in either direction. Even their much-vaunted endurance running appears to be their only notable physical trait." Vera's sensor stalks twitched again as she processed another data stream. "There's something unusual in their entertainment patterns," she ventured. "They dedicate significant resources to simulating conflict scenarios. These video games and movies often depict warfare with remarkable detail." Kethrix dismissed the observation with a casual wave of his upper appendages. "Cultural echoes, nothing more. Many species retain vestigial aggressive displays long after evolving beyond them. Add it to the footnotes if you must." The assessment chamber's walls pulsed with new data as the final analysis algorithms completed their runs. Streams of information coalesced into the formal classification metrics: technological development, military capability, social cohesion, and species aggression quotient. "The metrics are clear," Kethrix announced. "Earth qualifies as a Category 4 non-threat world. Their technological progress is adequate for basic interstellar communication, but falls well short of independent galactic citizenship. Their military capabilities have atrophied to ceremonial levels, and their species shows a clear evolutionary trajectory toward passive cooperation." The classification received immediate approval from the assembled judges. Their consensus registered in a cascade of harmonic tones that resonated through the chamber. Only Vera seemed to hesitate, her sensor stalks still processing entertainment data streams. "Shall we proceed with the standard protectorate integration protocol?" Zixtal inquired, already preparing the necessary documentation. "Indeed," Kethrix confirmed, "including the ceremonial combat trial, of course. It's traditional, even if most species at this level simply forfeit." He activated a secondary display, reviewing the statistics. The last 342 Category 4 species all chose immediate surrender when faced with our champion. It demonstrates their wisdom in accepting tribunal guidance. Vera's hesitation finally crystallized into words. "High Judge, I've noticed another anomaly. Their entertainment simulations often feature scenarios where seemingly weaker forces triumph through unconventional tactics. There's an entire genre dedicated to what they call asymmetric warfare." Thrix's bioluminescence flickered in what passed for a smile among his species. "My dear Vera, you're new to xenological assessment, so your caution is understandable. But consider, if they possessed genuine martial capability, why would they need to fantasize about it? These entertainment patterns actually reinforce our classification. They dream of martial prowess precisely because they lack it. The chamber's walls shifted to deep blue, indicating the assessment's completion. Kithrix authorized the final classification with a precise gesture, and Earth's file was officially marked for Protectorate integration. The hologram of Earth faded, replaced by the next world awaiting assessment. Send the standard notification package to their global governance bodies, Kithrix instructed. Include the combat trial requirement, but mark it as a formality. Given their clear preference for peaceful resolution, they'll likely appreciate the opportunity to demonstrate their wisdom through immediate concession. As the assessment chamber began its next analysis cycle, none of the assembled judges noticed that Vera had downloaded a complete archive of human entertainment media for further study. In her private research pod that evening, she would discover something the algorithms had missed. Humans didn't just simulate warfare, they had transformed it into an art form, one they had chosen to set aside, but never forgot. The United Earth Defense Council's underground chamber hummed with barely contained chaos. Emergency holograms flickered across the obsidian walls, displaying real-time reactions from every major nation to the Tribunal's announcement. Admiral Helena Santos stood at the head of the table, her weathered face illuminated by the dancing lights of a dozen urgent communications. "They've given us 72 hours to respond," she announced to the assembled military leaders. "Accept Protectorate status or provide a champion for their combat trial." Her hand clenched around the edge of the titanium conference table. They're not even trying to hide their contempt. The message included simplified diagrams, as if they were explaining it to children. General John Wei, commander of the Pan-Asian Special Forces, activated a secure holographic display. The Tribunal's champion has been the same for the last 20 years. A Croaxian warrior named Korax. The display showed footage of the alien warrior, a 3-meter-tall mass of armor and biosynthetic muscle. He's defeated, or rather, received immediate surrender from over 300 planetary champions. "They expect us to surrender too," Admiral Santos said, her voice tight with controlled anger. "Because we've spent 50 years building peace instead of weapons." A subtle change in the room's air pressure announced a new arrival. Security systems automatically adjusted, compensating for the presence that shouldn't have been detectable. In the shadows behind the Admiral, a figure seemed to coalesce from the darkness itself. "They've made a critical error," Commander Sarah Chen said quietly, causing several council members to start despite their years of military experience. Even among the elite gathered in that room, few had ever actually seen her. Chen was a ghost, a rumor, the kind of operative whose missions were classified beyond top secret. Admiral Santos didn't turn around. She'd worked with Chen long enough to know the commander preferred to remain in shadows. "Explain. They've mistaken our choice for our nature." Chen's voice was calm, almost contemplative. "They'd looked at our peace and seen weakness, instead of the discipline it actually requires." The holographic display shifted, showing Korax's combat records. Chen stepped forward slightly, her movement so fluid it seemed almost liquid. Her black tactical suit, a marvel of metamaterial engineering, absorbed light in ways that made her edges seem uncertain. "I studied every available frame of his previous matches," she continued. "He's never faced real resistance. His opponents surrender before the combat begins, meaning he's never had to adapt his tactics, never had to face someone who understands true warfare." General Zhang's eyes narrowed. "You're volunteering." It wasn't a question, but Chen nodded anyway. "I've spent the last 15 years running operations that don't officially exist, against threats the public can never know about. Let me show the Tribunal why Earth's peace was a choice, not a weakness." Admiral Santos finally turned to face her best shadow operative. "You understand what's at stake. If you fail, Earth becomes a protectorate," Chen finished. "Our military disbanded. Our sovereignty erased. Our future decided by beings who think we're primitive because we chose to end our wars. A slight smile crossed her face, barely visible in the dim light. But if I succeed, they'll understand exactly what that choice cost us. What we're capable of, if pushed. The room fell silent as the implications settled in. These military leaders had all read Chen's classified file, or what little of it wasn't redacted. They knew she'd spent years integrating ancient combat techniques with modern technology, creating a fighting style that turned human adaptability into a weapon. "Show me your plan," Admiral Santos ordered. Chen gestured at the holographic display, which shifted to show Carax's combat footage. "He fights like someone who's never known fear. His species relies on strength, on direct confrontation. But humanity." She manipulated the display, bringing up historical footage of Earth's Special Operations Forces. "We perfected the art of breaking an enemy's will before engaging in physical combat. The Tribunal thinks we're peaceful because we're weak. I intend to show them we're peaceful because we're too good at war." General Zhang studied the tactical simulations now running on the display. "You're not planning to just fight him," he realized. "You're going to hunt him." "Exactly." Chen's smile widened slightly. "The Tribunal wants a ceremonial combat trial. I'll give them a demonstration of humanity's oldest combat traditions. Let them see what turned us into Earth's apex predator long before we had technology." Admiral Santos straightened, her decision made. "Do it." "But Commander," she fixed Chen with a stern look, "make sure they understand. Make sure they never mistake our restraint for weakness again." Chen melted back into the shadows, her voice floating back as she disappeared. "They want to see humanity's true nature. I'll show them why our ancestors painted cave walls with images of the hunt, why every culture on Earth has stories about creatures that stalk from shadows. By the time I'm done, the Tribunal will understand exactly what it means to provoke a species that turned warfare into an art form, and then chose to put down our weapons." The room's security systems registered her departure with a slight pressure change, leaving the assembled leaders to prepare Earth's official response to the Tribunal. They would play their part, protesting diplomatically, arguing for peaceful resolution. But they all knew the real response would come in the combat arena, where a shadow warrior would teach the galaxy why humanity's peace was always a choice, never a limitation. The Tribunal's combat arena resembled a massive geodesic dome, its crystalline panels shifting between transparency and opacity as environmental systems cycled through final checks. In the preparation chamber, Carax watched the surveillance feed of his opponent with mounting disbelief. The human female was performing what appeared to be a simple stretching routine, her movements fluid and unhurried. "This is an insult," he growled to his handler, Vorkath, his bio-enhanced muscles rippling beneath ceremonial armor. "She wears no protection, carries no weapons. Does she mock our sacred combat trials?" Vorkath's sensor stalks twitched uncertainly. "The human diplomatic corps insists this is their chosen champion. Commander Saracen, they call her." He checked his data stream again. "Though I find it odd, most of her service record appears to be redacted." Carax activated his armor's energy shields, the familiar hum doing little to settle his growing irritation. "Look at her. No augmentations, no battle scars. How has she survived any combat?" In her own preparation area, Chen continued her routine, a series of movements that seemed deceptively simple. What the observers couldn't know was that each stretch, each bend, was testing the functionality of her simple black attire, a quantum-engineered miracle of human engineering. The suit's nanoscale metamaterials adjusted continuously, adapting to her every movement. Synthetic muscles woven through the fabric could amplify her strength when needed, while advanced thermal management systems would keep her body temperature invisible to infrared sensors. But these technological marvels weren't what made the suit special. It was how they enhanced techniques humans had perfected over millennia of warfare. High Judge Kithrix entered the observation booth, his crystalline appendages clicking against the floor. "The human champion's attire has been scanned," he asked the technical team. "Yes, High Judge. The lead technician confirmed. It registers as simple athletic wear. No energy signatures, no weapons, no shield generators. He paused, sensor stalks wavering. Though, there's something odd about the material composition. Irrelevant. Kithrix dismissed. Their primitive textile technology is hardly worth noting. Begin the final preparations. In her chamber, Chen's earpiece crackled with Admiral Santos's voice. Final systems check, Commander. How's our little surprise package performing? Chen executed a perfect backbend, testing the suit's spinal support system. Like a second skin, Admiral. The metamaterial response is optimal. She straightened, her movements precisely controlled. They're scanning everything, just as expected. Finding nothing, just as planned. Remember, Santos cautioned, this isn't just about winning. This is about sending a message. Chen's lips curved in a slight smile. Don't worry, Admiral. By the time I'm done, they'll never look at humans the same way again. She began another set of stretches, these ones incorporating movements from ancient martial arts forms. Each motion was designed to appear decorative, while actually testing a different aspect of her enhanced capabilities. In the observer's gallery, Vera, the junior analyst who had noted humanity's unusual entertainment patterns, watched with growing fascination. High Judge, she ventured. I've been analyzing her movement patterns. They share striking similarities with hunting behaviors from Earth's evolutionary history. Thrix's bioluminescence flickered with amusement. You're overthinking this, Vera. Look at her, performing ritual movements instead of preparing proper defenses. This will be another routine victory for Carax. The arena's environmental systems began their final calibration sequence. The massive space would soon become a shifting landscape of light and shadow, with varying terrain and visibility conditions. Carax's species had superior night vision and strength, advantages that had helped him dominate hundreds of previous matches. Combat trial preparations are complete, announced the arena's eye. Participants, take your positions. Chen walked toward the arena's entrance, her gait relaxed, but precisely measured. Each step was placing her feet exactly where she wanted them, testing the floor's composition, gathering tactical data that most wouldn't even think to collect. Carax stomped to his own entrance, his armor's power systems humming at full capacity. I will try to make this quick, human, he announced, his translator conveying what he thought was generous mercy. Surrender now, and you need not face humiliation. Chen's response was quiet, but carried clearly through the arena's acoustic system. You know, there's something interesting about humans and humiliation. She rolled her shoulders, the suit's systems adjusting microscopically. We learned long ago that embarrassment is a powerful weapon, but not in the way you think. The arena's entry gates began to close. In the observer's gallery, Vera's sensor stalks suddenly went rigid as she processed what she was seeing. The human's movements hadn't been ritual at all. They were a predator testing its weapons, measuring its hunting ground. Begin combat trial in 10 seconds, the AI announced. Chen's final words before the gates sealed were barely a whisper, but they sent an unexpected chill through every alien who heard them. Let me show you why humans don't just fight wars. We write epics about them. The gates closed with a resonant boom, and the arena's lights began to dim. Carax activated his night vision, confident in his superior adaptation to darkness. He didn't understand yet that the human wasn't adapting to the darkness. She was becoming one with it. The arena plunged into darkness, and Carax's secondary eyelids slid smoothly into place, activating his species' natural night vision. The massive environment, larger than 4 Earth football fields, transformed into a landscape of green-tinted shades. Artificial terrain created valleys and hills, while scattered structures provided cover and vertical challenges. To his enhanced vision, everything was clear as day, which was why he found it so disturbing that he couldn't locate the human. Impossible, he muttered, his armor's sensors sweeping the arena. She was 20 meters ahead when the lights dropped. His display showed nothing. No heat signature, no movement, not even the subtle electrical signals that living bodies naturally emitted. A whisper came from behind him. Did you know that humans spent most of their evolutionary history as persistence hunters? Crack swirled, his armor's servos whining at the sudden movement. Nothing. The voice seemed to have come from empty air. We didn't have claws or fangs or superior strength. The voice continued, now seemingly from his left. What we had was endurance and patience. His armor's targeting system tried to lock onto the sound, but the acoustic pattern was strange, as if the words were bouncing off multiple surfaces simultaneously. The human was using the arena's architecture itself as a weapon. Stop these games, Krax bellowed, his voice echoing through the arena. Face me with honor. A soft laugh, this time from above. Honor. Interesting concept. We studied it extensively in our military history. Do you know what we learned? Krax fired a warning shot from his armor's energy weapon, the blast illuminating a section of the arena in harsh blue light. For a split second, he saw multiple silhouettes of the human. But that was impossible. His sensor package confirmed no holograms or energy signatures. We learned. Chen's voice continued, now seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere. That honor is often invoked by the powerful to make the weak fight on their terms. In the observation booth, Vera's sensor stalks were writhing in agitation. High Judge, these tactics, they match patterns from human historical archives, something called psychological warfare. Cathrix waved her off, but his crystalline appendages were clicking together nervously. The human simply has some primitive acoustic manipulation device. Krax will. A shadow moved in the arena, drawing Krax's attention. He fired again, but hit nothing. His armor's threat assessment systems were starting to register anomalies, movement patterns that didn't match any known combat algorithm. But humans. Chen's voice had dropped to an intimate whisper that seemed to come from right beside Krax's audio sensors. We learned to hunt before we learned to fight. Do you know the difference? Krax spun again, his movements becoming less precise, more reactive. Show yourself. Fighting is about defeating an opponent. The voice explained, its location impossible to pin down. Hunting is about making prey realize it's prey. The alien warrior's sensor package suddenly blared a warning. A pressure change behind him. He turned and fired in one smooth motion, his energy blast scorching the air where a human figure had been. But wasn't anymore. Good reflexes, Chen commented, her voice now echoing as if from a great distance. But reflexes aren't enough when you don't know what you're fighting. Krax's armor registered an impact. Light, barely enough to trigger its sensors. Something had struck his shoulder plate. He reached up and found a small metal object. A primitive projectile casing from a long obsolete human weapon. That was just to prove a point, Chen said. I could have used something lethal. But this isn't about killing you, Krax. This is about education. In the observation booth, the technical team was frantically analyzing the arena's sensor data. High Judge, we can't track her. She's somehow matching her body temperature to the ambient environment. And her suit's material. It's doing something to our scanning frequencies. Vera pulled up archived footage from human entertainment networks. These movements, they're similar to something humans call ninja. Ancient shadow warriors whoa. Silence. Cathrix snapped, but his bioluminescence was fluctuating wildly. In the arena, Krax, the undefeated champion of the Tribunal, was beginning to show signs of stress. Let me tell you about another human hunting technique. Chen's voice purred from the shadows. We learned early that fear does half the work for us. A frightened prey makes mistakes, wastes energy, begins to see threats everywhere. As if to demonstrate, Krax fired at another flicker of movement, his energy blast revealing empty space. His armor's power reserves were already down to 82% from the constant scanning and firing. Would you like to know what else we learned? Chen asked, her voice now carrying a predatory amusement that made even the observers shiver. We learned that the most effective hunter isn't the strongest or the fastest. It's the one that makes its prey feel helpless. Carax's armor registered another light impact, this time on his back. Another obsolete bullet casing. Another reminder that she could have used something lethal, but was choosing not to. The message was clear. The hunter was toying with her prey. And the trial had barely begun. 20 minutes into the trial, Carax's armor displayed a warning he'd never seen before. Operator stress level critical. His hands, engineered to remain steady under any conditions, had developed a slight tremor. The arena's shadows seemed to writhe with potential threats, each darker patch potentially concealing his tormentor. Your heart rate is elevated, Chen observed, her voice now carrying artificial harmonics that made it seem to emerge from his own armor. Did you know humans can detect fear through micro-expressions? We evolved that ability over millions of years of social development. It helped us identify threats and opportunities. Carax slammed his fist into a nearby wall, cracking the synthetic stone. Face me. Fight with courage. Courage. A whisper of movement caught his eye. He fired, hitting nothing. Let's discuss courage. Your species evolved as apex predators, didn't you? Natural armor, superior strength, enhanced senses, everything given to you by nature. His armor's power reserves had dropped to 64%. Each missed shot, each constant sensor sweep, drained more energy. And still, he couldn't get a lock on her position. But humans, Chen continued, her voice now carrying an instructor's calm authority. We were prey animals originally. Soft skin, dull teeth, no claws. Do you know what that taught us? In the observation booth, Vera was frantically correlating data streams. High Judge, these tactics match ancient Earth military documents. Something called ghost warfare from a region called Vietnam. The psychological impact on technologically superior forces was silence. Kifrix ordered, but his crystalline structure was vibrating with stress frequencies. On the displays, Carax's biometric data showed increasing signs of psychological strain. It taught us, Chen's voice hardened, that courage isn't about being fearless. It's about being terrified and acting anyway. We had to earn every advantage we got. Had to learn to turn weakness into strength. A flash of movement. This time Carax was sure he had her. His energy blast illuminated the arena, revealing a piece of her black suit fabric floating in the air. A decoy. She'd been shedding these false targets throughout the arena while he wasted power shooting at them. For instance, she continued, right now you're wondering why I haven't attacked directly. Your armor's still at full defensive power. No damage taken. And yet, Carax felt something brush against his armor's backplate. He spun, firing wildly, but hit only air. His power reserves dropped to 51%. And yet you're losing, Chen finished. Because humans learned that breaking an enemy's will is more effective than breaking their bodies. In the booth, the technical team's displays erupted with new data. High Judge, we've detected what she's doing with the suit. It's not advanced technology. It's some kind of adaptive camouflage based on simple light absorption principles. But combined with her movement patterns, it's making our targeting systems. Making them what? Kithrix demanded. The technician's sensor stalks drooped, making them worse than useless. They're showing us what she wants us to see. Back in the arena, Carax activated his armor's maximum sensor suite, pushing its systems to their limits. Power dropped to 45%. You can't hide forever, he growled, trying to sound confident. Eventually, you'll have to. Have to what? Chen's voice was suddenly clear, coming from a specific location for the first time. Carax turned to see her standing in plain view, her suit rippling slightly as it adjusted to the light. Have to fight fair. Let me explain something about humanity, Carax. Something your tribunal failed to understand. She took a step forward, her movements liquid smooth. Carax raised his weapon but found himself hesitating. Every combat instinct screamed that this was wrong. that her confidence meant she had already won. He just didn't know how yet. "Humans don't fight fair," she explained, continuing her advance. "We fight to win. When we were outmatched, we invented spears. When our prey ran, we learned to track. When enemies had walls, we built siege engines. Every limitation became an invitation to innovate." Crax's targeting system locked onto her, but his finger refused to pull the trigger. Something about her deliberate exposure terrified him more than her hiding had. "Do you know why Earth has been peaceful for 50 years? She asked, now close enough that he could see her eyes. "Not because we're weak, because we got too good at warfare, because we looked into the abyss of our own potential and decided to step back." His armor's stress warnings were now critical. Power reserves at 38%. "And still," she advanced. "But you," her voice carried almost maternal disappointment, "you and your tribunal made a fundamental error. You looked at our peace and saw submission. You should have asked yourselves." She stopped, just out of arm's reach. Crax's weapon was pointed directly at her heart, but they both knew he couldn't fire. She had broken something in him without landing a single blow. "You should have asked yourselves," Chen whispered, "what kind of species becomes so dangerous they choose to stop, and what happens when you force them to remember." In the observation booth, absolute silence fell as the implications of her words sank in. They hadn't been watching a combat trial. They had been watching a warning. Power reserves, 32%. Crax's armor blared warnings he'd never seen in 3 centuries of combat. Cognitive function impaired. Stress levels exceeding design parameters. Fight or flight response interfering with targeting systems. But worst of all was the silence. Chen had disappeared again, leaving him alone with the knowledge of what she represented. What humanity represented. "Let me show you something we learned from studying spiders." Her voice emerged from nowhere, everywhere. "Did you know that many web-building spiders create deliberate patterns in their webs?" Scientists argued about why for centuries. Crax tried to steady his weapon, but the tremors had gotten worse. Each shadow held potential death. Each moment of silence promised violence. "Turns out," Chen continued, her voice moving impossible distances between words, "the patterns aren't for the spiders. They're for the prey. Visual signals that trigger instinctive responses, like what I'm doing to you now." The arena's environmental systems cycled, creating a subtle mist at ground level. Crax watched in horror as the mist revealed dozens of near-invisible threads crisscrossing the arena, threads he'd been maneuvering through unknowingly for the past 30 minutes. "Monofilament wire," Chen explained clinically. "Strong enough to support my weight, thin enough to be nearly invisible. I've been herding you through this web while you thought you were choosing your own path." In the observation booth, Vera's analysis sparked a revelation. High Judge, the human's previous movements. She wasn't just avoiding his attacks. She was building a trap, Kithrix finished, his crystalline structure vibrating with newfound fear, one strand at a time. Crax fired desperately at the nearest visible wire. The energy blast passed through it harmlessly. "Some are real." Chen's voice held dark amusement. "Some are just light playing on the mist. Can you tell which is which?" Because one wrong step. His armor sensors suddenly detected pressure changes. The wires were moving, tightening. Power reserves dropped to 25% as his systems tried to calculate safe zones in the deadly web. "But that's not the real lesson," Chen continued. "The real lesson is about preparation. While you were hunting me, I was changing the battlefield. Every retreat led you deeper into my web. Every missed shot drained your power. And now," a shadow detached itself from the wall behind Crax. Before he could turn, he felt something attached to his armor's power core. "Now you have a choice," Chen said, her voice finally coming from a single, clear location. "That device on your back. It's primitive by your standards. Simple electromagnetic pulse generator. But at this range, with your power reserves so low." Crax's internal displays flickered. The device was interfering with his armor systems, creating cascade failures across his defensive screens. "You can try to fight," Chen offered, now standing before him, her suit rippling as it shed its chameleon properties. "Your armor might survive the pulse. Maybe. But you'll be tangled in very real monofilament wire, with no power assists to help you break free." The arena's lights gradually rose, revealing the full extent of her trap. The entire space had become a deadly geometric puzzle, with Carax at its center. Every movement threatened to trigger the web's collapse. "Or," she continued, "you can do something your species considers unthinkable. Something that, ironically, humans consider one of our greatest strengths." In the observation booth, silence fell as they waited for her next words. Even Kithrix had ceased his nervous crystalline clicking. "You can surrender," Chen said softly. "Acknowledge defeat. Learn from failure. Adapt." She stepped closer, her movements precise between the deadly strands. "The choice that brought humanity peace wasn't surrendering our capacity for violence. It was learning when not to use it." Carax's mighty legs, capable of crushing steel, began to shake. His armor's display showed 18% power remaining. The pulse generator hummed ominously against his back. "What are you?" he whispered. "I am humanity's choice," Chen answered. "Every path we didn't take. Every weapon we chose not to use. Every war we decided not to fight." Her eyes met his. "I am the shadow of what we could be, kept ready so we never have to be it again." The mighty Croaxian warrior, undefeated champion of 3 centuries, looked at the web surrounding him, looked at the human who had orchestrated his complete defeat without landing a single direct blow, and made the most human choice of all. His voice cracked, translator struggling with the unfamiliar concept, "I surrender." In that moment, the galaxy's balance of power shifted, not through superior technology or overwhelming force, but through the demonstration of something far more terrifying, a species that had mastered the art of war so completely that they could win without fighting. As the arena's lights reached full brightness, Chen's final words echoed through the suddenly silent space. "Lesson 1 complete. Should we proceed to Lesson 2, or has the Tribunal learned enough about humanity's primitive nature?" No one answered. No one needed to. The message had been received. The Tribunal's emergency session chamber crackled with tension. Holographic displays showed the combat arena being dismantled, Chen's web of monofilament wire carefully documented by trembling technicians. Carax sat in a medical pod, his mighty frame diminished somehow, while psychological support units attempted to address the trauma of his defeat. High Judge Kithrix faced the assembled tribunal members, his crystalline structure dulled with stress. "The Human Diplomatic Courts has requested an audience. They claim to have additional information we should consider." The chamber's doors parted to admit Admiral Santos and a team of Earth's representatives. The Admiral's dress uniform gleamed under the crystalline lights, medals, and insignias carefully chosen to represent humanity's martial history. "Honored members of the Tribunal," Santos began, her voice carrying the weight of carefully measured words, "you witnessed today a demonstration of humanity's capabilities. But there's something you need to understand. Commander Chen was not an exception. She was a reminder." The Admiral gestured, and holographic displays materialized throughout the chamber. They showed training facilities hidden beneath Earth's peaceful surface, places where the art of warfare was preserved, studied, and refined. "When we chose peace," Santos continued, "we didn't discard our knowledge. We archived it, refined it, continued to evolve our understanding of conflict while choosing not to employ it. Commander Chen represents just one branch of our combat disciplines." The displays shifted, showing other training programs. Orbital drop specialists practicing in secret facilities, cyber warfare experts maintaining their skills against automated opponents, strategic commanders running endless simulations of conflicts that would hopefully never happen. You saw how one human, using primarily primitive technology and psychological warfare, defeated your champion. What you haven't seen is how thoroughly we've maintained our other capabilities. Vera, newly promoted after her insights during the combat trial, activated a data stream. Admiral, our analysis suggests these facilities have been operational throughout Earth's peaceful period. Why maintain such capabilities while pursuing peace? Santos smiled, but it held no warmth. Because of moments exactly like this, because we understood that the galaxy might not comprehend our choice, might mistake it for weakness. She paused, letting the implications sink in. Commander Chen demonstrated what one human could do with minimal technology and maximum skill. Would you like to know what we can do when we don't restrict ourselves? The displays shifted again, showing classified footage that made the Tribunal members' bioluminescence flicker with fear. Prototype weapons platforms disguised as peaceful satellites. Defense systems hidden within civilian infrastructure. Training programs that combined ancient combat techniques with cutting-edge technology. Humanity, Santos explained, learned something crucial from our history of warfare. We learned that the most dangerous weapon isn't the one you show your enemy. It's the one they never see coming. Like Chen's demonstration, our peace has been a form of camouflage, hiding not our weakness, but the true extent of our strength. Kithrix's appendages clicked nervously. These revelations, they changed the assessment metrics considerably. They should, Santos agreed, because you need to understand something fundamental about humanity. We're not peaceful because we can't fight. We're peaceful because we've mastered fighting so completely that we understand its true cost. The Admiral approached the central display, activating a final data stream. It showed Earth's orbital defense network, carefully disguised as scientific instruments and communication satellites. Everything you've seen today. Chen's skills, our hidden facilities, our maintained capabilities. It's all been defensive, precisely calibrated to protect without provoking. Because the alternative. The display shifted to classified simulations of Earth's full military potential if unleashed. The Tribunal members watched in horrified fascination as the projection showed how humanity's preserved knowledge could be rapidly converted to offensive capabilities. The alternative, Santos continued softly, is something we chose to step back from. Not because we couldn't achieve it, but because we could. Because we saw where that path led and decided to be better. She turned to face the assembled Tribunal directly. So now you have a choice. You can accept Earth as a sovereign world, recognizing our right to maintain peace our own way. Or, Kithrix prompted, though his crystalline resonance suggested he already knew the answer. Or you can force us to demonstrate why we chose peace in the first place. Santos's voice carried the weight of every weapon humanity had chosen not to build, every war they had decided not to fight. Commander Chen showed you what one human could do while holding back. Are you truly curious about what we can do when we stop holding back? The chamber fell silent as the Tribunal members processed the full implications of humanity's unveiled nature. They had thought they were assessing a primitive species that had turned away from warfare. Instead, they had awakened something far more dangerous, a species that had mastered warfare so completely that they could afford to set it aside, but hadn't forgotten how to pick it back up. 6 months after the combat trial, the Galactic Tribunal's Central Archive received its most significant update in 3 centuries. The classified files on humanity had been completely rewritten, bearing a new designation that sent ripples of unease through alien civilizations. Approach with respect. High Judge Kithrix stood before the Tribunal's assessment division, his crystalline form polished to formal perfection. The chamber, once a place of casual species evaluation, now held a heavy atmosphere of introspection. The Chen Protocol, he announced, is now official Tribunal policy. His primary eyes swept the assembled judges. All species assessment teams must now ask themselves, are we seeing genuine primitive development, or have we encountered another humanity? Vera, newly appointed as head of human studies, activated the central display. It showed footage from Chen's demonstration, now required viewing for all Tribunal contact teams. The protocol fundamentally changes our approach to species evaluation, she explained. We no longer merely measure technological advancement or military capability. We must now consider the possibility of deliberately hidden strength. The display shifted to show the latest data from Earth. The planet's surface remained peaceful. Parks and cultural centers still occupied former military bases. Clean energy facilities continued to replace munitions factories. But now the Tribunal understood what lay beneath that serene surface. Humanity has agreed to share certain insights, Vera continued, her sensor stalks moving with carefully controlled excitement. Their concept of maintaining peace through preserved strength has already revolutionized 3 conflict zones in the Outer Rim. The Chamber's archives projected updated statistics. Trade routes once plagued by raiders had gone quiet, not through force, but through the application of human psychological warfare techniques. Disputed territories found new paths to cooperation after studying Earth's history of turning enemies into allies. But the most crucial lesson, Kithrix added, wasn't about warfare at all. It was about understanding. His crystalline structure resonated with newfound wisdom. Humanity taught us that true strength isn't about the weapons you possess. It's about the weapons you choose not to use. The display showed Commander Chen, now serving as Earth's special advisor to the Tribunal. She had declined all offers of higher political positions, preferring to continue training both human and alien students in what she called the art of peace through preparedness. The galaxy has changed, Kithrix acknowledged. Species that once sought to demonstrate their power through aggression now strive to show their strength through restraint. The human model of maintained capability coupled with chosen peace has created a new paradigm. Vera activated the final display, showing the ceremony from 1 week ago. Earth had officially joined the Galactic Council, not as a protectorate, but as a founding member of the new Defense and Deterrence Coalition. The sight of Commander Chen standing beside Krax, now her strongest advocate for military reform, symbolized this transformation. We thought we were teaching younger species how to join galactic society, Kithrix mused. Instead, a species we dismissed as primitive taught us what galactic society could become. The Chamber's archives began their daily update, adding new data from Earth's growing influence on galactic culture. Archaeological teams studying human history had discovered something remarkable. Nearly every human culture had legends of powerful warriors who chose peace, of strength held in reserve, of victory achieved through wisdom rather than force. The final irony, Vera noted, is that humanity had been trying to tell us this all along. Their entertainment, which we dismissed as primitive fantasy, was actually a warning. Every story about heroes choosing not to fight, about power used with restraint. They were showing us their true nature. We simply lacked the wisdom to see it. Kithrix approached the Chamber's central podium, preparing to deliver the annual assessment summary to the Galactic Council. But before he could speak, a message arrived from Earth. Commander Chen had authorized the release of one final classified file, designated "Why We Choose Peace." The file contained a single quote attributed to an ancient human warrior philosopher. Supreme excellence consists of breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. As the quote displayed across the chamber screens, Kithrix understood the ultimate lesson of humanity's revelation. They hadn't just preserved their capacity for warfare, they had transcended it. In choosing peace while maintaining strength, they had achieved something far more powerful than military dominance. They had created peace that came from wisdom rather than weakness. The galaxy would never be the same. And as Kithrix prepared to address the council, he realized that was exactly what humanity had intended all along. They hadn't just defended their right to exist peacefully. They had shown the galaxy a better path forward. The Chen Protocol wasn't just a new assessment procedure. It was humanity's gift to the stars. The understanding that true power lies not in the strength you show, but in the strength you choose not to use. And in that choice, they had achieved the greatest victory of all.